Do you believe in luck? Do you believe in chance? Well, I'm going to suggest maybe there's no such thing. So we're continuing our series of Emerson and New Thought and looking at the essay today called Compensation. Now, I know that most of the folks on our planet believe in luck. If you have a doubt, stop by one of the local casinos and just look around. Or go to your local store when the lottery number gets in those big zeros and see how many people are standing in line. Now, don't get me wrong, I've done both. I've bought a lottery ticket and I've put a few coins in a slot machine once in a while. But when I lived in Las Vegas, I realized that city was not built on luck. Right. So I developed an attitude there that if I was going to go into a casino and play any of those games, it was like an arcade, and I was playing for entertainment. Might as well hand the maitre d' the money, right? As a metaphysician, am I creating the outcome of walking out with empty pockets? Is that possible? According to the ancient Hermetic teaching, Emerson's essays, and our own science of mind, it's very possible that I have set my destiny in that realm through my belief. There is an automatic action of the law of cause and effect, and it operates in both the physical and in the spiritual realm. It operates in both, and it operates about the same way. If I drop a book, it makes a noise, right? We know it's going to drop, it's going to make noise, and depending on the weight and the distance, we may hear it quickly or we may hear it in a few seconds or minutes, or if it's off a really tall building, it may take a while to get down there, right? In the spiritual laws, however, there's no time. There's no time, meaning that cause can be set in motion today, and the effect may not be experienced until much later, elder years perhaps. Or maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's next week, tomorrow, or maybe it's in the moment. That's possible too. Anybody ever manifested a parking spot when you needed it? Yeah. So we're good manifestors. We're good manifestors. Spiritual laws have this mystical quality about them because they're activated through our belief, our thoughts, and our actions. The ancient Hermetic principle of cause and effect states every cause has its effect. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Mr. Emerson, in our essay, Compensation, says justice is not postponed. A perfect equity adjusts its balance in all parts of life. The dice of God are always loaded. He really said that. Ernest Holmes, author of The Science of Mind, founder of our teaching, he says there is a law of cause and effect which governs all and which will automatically punish impartially and impersonally if we conflict with its principle of harmony. You are one with the creative spirit of the universe. There is a universal and divine spirit that will inspire, guide, direct, and companion you. But then he says there's also a universal law of cause and effect which sees to it that every act, every thought, every motive must be accounted for. Must be accounted for. And Emerson adds to that, every act rewards itself. Now, that's really the crux of the teachings in the esoteric metaphysical world around the spiritual law of cause and effect. They're talking about the idea that we might know of as crime and punishment. Crime and punishment, and how both grow, Emerson said, both grow from the same stem. The same seed. We plant seeds of ideas, seeds of thought. And so he's saying that both grow from the same stem. And what came to mind for me was a rose. A rose has the beautiful blossom, but it has thorns. So that's what came to mind for me. Emerson says, punishment is the fruit that unsupported ripens within the flower of the pleasure which concealed it. The effect already blooms in the cause. The effect already blooms in the cause. This is true in the affirmative and the negative. Anybody like movies? Anybody watch movies? We probably were watching more movies than we used to because of the streaming networks, right? It's easier. It's easier. So you may know some movie plots that use this idea. Let's say there's a spy and he's working for one government and he decides to work for the other government. He is being compensated, and we think of compensation as paycheck, salary, right? We give our time and we get money back for it. Emerson is using that idea on a universal scale in his essay. So this spy is spying for one government, being compensated, and then he decides he's going to spy for the other government and sell secrets to them, and he's getting compensated there. So suddenly he goes from being in balance to giving and receiving, right? To being imbalanced, no loyalty to his job and his country. And now he's also greedy and getting more money. So he's out of balance. And what happens in the movie? He gets caught. He goes to prison, right? So the compensation he receives for his actions is going to prison. Let's say there's a husband or a wife that decides to have an affair. Same idea, right? They're in a relationship. There's compensation, love for love. One decides they need more love. And now there's out of balance. What happens? They get caught. They lose everything. They're out of balance. They're out of balance. And that's the point of Emerson's essay, is this idea of a universal system that we live in that retains its balance. If you think of airplane or a sailboat, constantly adjusting to get back on course. And the universe is infinite intelligence. And because of that infinite intelligence, it's in a system of balances. Imagine if we were in charge. Billions of people with different ideas, different beliefs about how things should operate. We'd be living in chaos, wouldn't we? We would be living in chaos. So this infinite intelligence created this system that we cannot mess up. It stays in balance. It continues to balance itself out. Punishment, compensation, can feel like retribution, can't it? Feels like the universe just smacked us down sometimes. And it's like, what on earth? We've created a divine being who's responsible for that. Many religions have created that. Guy in the sky, devil made me do it, right? Because that retribution is so difficult for us to say, I did it. I made the decision to sell secrets to the other country. Therefore, I did this to myself. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to accept that responsibility. We're going to talk a little bit in 2 weeks about the essay Self-Reliance. When I first came into this teaching, it's one of the first things that I learned was, no, God's not a puppet master. You're responsible. What? I have to think? I'm responsible? Me? A lot of people walk away from this teaching because of that. They would rather be told what to do, when to stand, when to kneel, what to say, when to say it. They're more comfortable in that environment, which is why it works for many people. They don't want the self-responsibility. And that's okay. Many paths to the divine, aren't there? There are many paths to the divine. Another quote that Emerson uses is, "Things refuse to be mismanaged long." I find comfort in that. How about you? Yeah. Now, remember, time is relative. So this mismanagement that we might perceive in any area may not be balanced in our lifetime. But if we look back over the long timeline of the history of the world, we can see where things got out of balance and had to come back in. Women's right to vote, civil rights, this move and push for equality, more equality today. All of these things is the universe pulling back in to rightness, to correctness, to alignment, balance. We live in this harmonious system. That's one of the words of God, is harmony. And so everything wants to come back into harmony. Even the orchestra, when they're all tuning up, and then they come into that one beautiful harmonic voice. So our work here is to become aware of and understand our own minds. If we truly are responsible, if it is up to us, if we have this blessing of so much freedom of choice, if it's up to us, we need to understand, don't we? What's going on? So that's how we can learn to play the game of life more successfully. I love Bob sharing this morning. Thank you for that, because it plays right into this, that we learn how to do life better, to make better choices. We have to give up blaming, judging, and complaining. Unless, of course, we like to live in the past and receive blame and judgment and complaints. That's a choice, right? That's a choice. So we have to give that stuff up. When we can completely stop judging, blaming, and complaining and begin to appreciate and use the spiritual laws, our lives begin to change. Our lives begin to change. We begin to come more into harmonious alignment with life. We're no longer resistant to it, pushing against it. And not operating blindly or planting negative seeds of causation. Cause and effect become one thing. It's not, I plant a seed and then something happens and I go, how did that happen? Oh no, cause and effect are one thing. The effects in my life have been caused by the thoughts that I think. That was my experience when I started this teaching, was recognizing that. If this stuff is true, and I really have the ability to do this, what does Ernest say? Prove this teaching for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Prove it for yourself. Prove its principles in your life. We started with a book study as our community was coming together before we found a place to meet. And one of the first books we did was E equals MC squared. Is that what it was? It's his theory of relativity, so to speak, but it was written by another lady. And in it, every week, there were practices. Prove the principles. And we had so much fun doing it because we were proving the principles every week. Excuse me. We grew seeds. One side we praised, one side we fussed at. The side we praised, we saw grow. The side we fussed at, we saw wither a bit. We used the principle of what we focus on expands. We looked for yellow cars. We saw a lot of yellow cars that week. So we proved many of the principles. One of my favorite was the divination. Remember that? We took clothes hangers and made divining rods out of them, and they actually worked. You've seen them in the Western movies where they're looking for water, right? It works. It works. And we tried it and we saw it work. One couple said, we use it at every party now because it's so much fun. People don't believe it. So prove the principles. Prove the principles. One of the ways that many people choose to learn is through suffering. Through suffering. Science of Mind says we don't need to suffer. We don't need to suffer. And I have never really been a proponent of the idea of we're here to learn lessons. We're in Earth school. It's got to be tough. This is another challenge. It'll make you stronger. True, those things, maybe. But I don't believe in a divine intelligence that wants to put me down here and go, okay, try this. See if you can do that. Oh, let's put this in the way. Oh, let's figure that out. I just don't think it's that manipulative. I just don't. I think I receive the reflection of myself and my choices and create the obstacles that I need at a deep soul level to expand me. For me, it's a soul thing. It's a me thing. It's not a guy in the sky thing. Emerson's thoughts on compensation, along with all of his other essays, had a profound effect on Ernest Holmes. He was only in his early 20s when he discovered this. He was at the lake house of the family, and his brother had a lake house next to them, older brother. And he and his wife had been discovering some of the transcendentalists and some of the new thought things that were out there. Ernest had not been exposed to any of that. And so his brother had a magazine, something progressive, I can't remember the name of it. And he also had these Emerson essays. And he shared with his brother Fenwick years later when Fenwick wrote his biography. Emerson was like drinking water. It was so easy. It was so easy to read and understand Emerson. So Fenwick says in the biography, no one realized better than Ernest himself that this was the beginning of a new mental life and the turning point in the stream of consciousness that flooded out into his river of writing and teaching in the coming years. It was no longer a question of, is life worthwhile? But rather, how can I make life worthwhile to me and to the world? 20-year-old young man wanting to change the world. I think he has done that. I think he's answered that question with the plethora of writings that he's created and put out into the world, speaking and forming this movement called religious science. He's left us a legacy. He's left us a legacy of spirituality. He's left us a legacy of oneness. And we get to choose how deeply we move into it, how deeply we study, how deeply we embody it. So if you would like to embody more and practice more and learn these principles, I invite you to sign up for Mindful Monday. It's a newsletter I send out Monday mornings. It's a recap of our talk. You can sign up with the QR code, send an email, or in the lobby. And we've got two practices for you this week. The first one is compensation. Now again, the thought of compensation for us is typically in the form of salary, but I want you to take it into the spiritual realm this week. Notice where the law of compensation is at work in your life. Pay attention to it. How is the universe keeping the balance of good in your life? Remember, it's always balancing out. How is the universe keeping the balance of good? What are the blessings? What are the challenges? What are the blessings and what are the challenges? Pay attention to all areas: life, health, finance, and creative expression, relationships. How is life constantly balancing for you? How are you being compensated? Compensated for good deeds, compensated for judgment, compensated for, whatever is happening. Think about how life is showing up for you. Number 2 is sit at home with cause. Ernest Holmes used to say this: sit at home with cause, sit at home with cause, meaning to stay focused on the cause. whether or not we're creating something new, planting that seed, or whether we're just trying to understand what on earth is going on. Something's happening. There's some chaos or disharmony that may have entered. And we're trying to understand why. Set with cause. What could be back of this? Sometimes this is easier to go into the past where we have broader perspective and less attachment, that we can see the progression of something that happened. This week, use your meditation time to contemplate what the causes have been in your life that have produced the effects that you've experienced, be they good or not good. An example from my own life is when, excuse me, is when, suspense, right? I decided to stop blaming my father for everything that went wrong in our family. I had done that for a long time. And I realized that I was at choice to change how I thought about that. And when I decided to do it and actually did the work and started changing my thinking, then I had to do what Neville Goddard says, keep my thinking changed. How many did the, see, y'all know what it is. I can't remember the word. Yeah, what was that? Complaining. That was it. Everybody that did complaining, have you complained since? Ever once with it? We all have stories and experiences from our past, yes? Good ones, bad ones, challenging ones. We all have those stories. Do you look at them as empowering or as limiting? Empowering or limiting? Is there blame and regret, or is there peace and gratitude for everything that's happened, for the gift in the circumstance? That's the place that we grow from, is when we can find that peace and that gratitude for everything that happens. As the great Hermetic teachings said, chance is but a name for law not recognized. And I would add that perhaps luck is a belief in duality. Luck is a belief in duality rather than the power and the presence of the divine within us. Do we hope or do we affirm? We'll close it out this morning with a quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, law, not chance, governs. There are laws by which all this occurs, even the loss of money upon the part of one who has made it. But the fact remains that the ups and downs of life follow clearly defined principles of thought, and that the one who understands and practices the principles of success will gain success. I invite you this week to consider how you're using this law of compensation, cause and effect, in your life. So it is. And it's your turn. Did I leave out enough? Got questions? Diane.
I have had a couple of times in the last 7 days where I won't say I was surprised by my life, but some totally unanticipated things that have not been what I was looking for. And as Bob said this morning, I found myself in here. I don't want to be in here. I want to be in here. So it's been a lot easier to step and look and say to myself, what do I have? And the gratitude. And it's this community is the biggest part in our teachings and Ernest Holmes. And it's a grateful place that I find myself for all of those things and for all of you.
Thank you, Diane. Who else? It looks like a question. Formulating anyway.
Well, I was just thinking about compensation And what?
Turn around.
Oh, I was just thinking about compensation. And with all the things that are happening in the world today, we get up and we feel kind of negative about things, and we can respond out of anger and hurt. And so I'm not exactly sure how we do this, but the science of mind principles are very easy. If you're always extending love, then that's what you're going to get back in every single situation. So I hope that's true.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true. That is the truth. Who else? No? Got it? We're good to go? Oops, Stevie.
Don't know quite how to formulate it, but I've been doing very well with becoming who I am and who I want to be. And I'm looking for employment, and it's not happening as much as I thought it would. As far as the opportunities that are available, I've chosen to go back into the senior living industry because that's where my heart takes me. But I haven't gotten the responses. Things have changed so much with the computers and all that sort of fun stuff. It sometimes gets overwhelming, and I still believe who I am and what I want to do. It just hasn't manifested yet.
It is done in the mind of God. We await its manifestation in form. Now. Oh, yeah. The vice versa. There you go. There you go. Anyone else? Sit at home with cause. Sit at home with cause. It basically means we go back to principle. We go back to principle. When the crazy things in life happen, be it in employment or illness or relationship, whatever it might be, we go back to cause. We sit with it and go, why, not why, what is this about? And we just continue to go back into that idea of, okay, here's the effect. What has caused this? What am I thinking? What are my beliefs? What are my subconscious beliefs down in the basement I don't even know about that are causing this? What has been my tendency of thinking recently, all of my life around this area? Many times I call it the flat tire. 3 areas of life are great. One area of life is exploding. It's like, why does this area never work for me? That's the soul work that we have to do, that we have to focus on that. And for me, for many years, it was relationship. And until I did my work, a lot of committed work on it, I didn't manifest a relationship. And then I did. So it's the healing, staying with cause, healing that which is blocking the manifestation. Because we know how the law works. We know how the law works. And it works according to our belief. So it's sitting with cause is getting underneath that and finding out, why is this thing blocking my way? Make sense? Okay. Are we ready? Ready to pray about this? All right, let's pray. Let's take a deep breath and let that go. And as we let that go, we let go of it all. Bring our awareness fully present into right here and right now, as we recognize there is one power, one presence, one life. That power, that presence, that life, it is love. It is harmony. It is balance. It is all of the spiritual laws. It is the system. It is the order. It is the action. There's nothing outside of this one. There's nothing outside of this infinite source of intelligence. It is in, through, and as everything, all of its creation, everything that we see, that we know. Spirit is in, through, and as that intelligence. And so we know that all of that is here now. We know that it's in, through, and as us, because we are manifestations of that. that one substance, that one intelligence flows through our bodies, starting with the intelligence within each and every one of our cells. Each and every one of our cells is individualized and unique in its expression with a specific responsibility within our biological system. That's intelligence at work. And so as I know that we are one in the one and that God flows through each one of us, I speak my word for and about us this day, knowing that each of us is justly compensated in life, in love, in finance, in peace, in harmony, in joy, in all that is, as we continue to move back into balance and alignment and harmony with the divine presence. I know that we have each received here this day that which we have come to receive, that our consciousness, our minds, and our hearts have been expanded as we've connected with each other in love and in joy. And I know also for anyone that has anything on their heart this day that they are seeking prayer around, whether it is health, wealth, love, joy, peace, harmony, creative expression, that as we lift that into the consciousness of this prayer and into the consciousness of this room, I know that whatever needs to be healed is healed. What needs to be revealed is revealed, and that life is good. And I'm so grateful for this manifestation, for the action of the law through each and every one of us, for the law of compensation and the justness